Hello and welcome to Hit the Bricks.
Everything that's interesting about Guthrie, Oklahoma. Every single thing.
Every single thing. That is my good friend Justin Fortney. I'm Chris Evans, and we are on location once again.
Yeah. G Gallery and Glass Studio.
Bing. First
Got
try.
It. Right on.
First try.
We're like sitting in the middle of all this like lovely stuff. Yeah. We can't break anything today.
I was like, I'm really nervous. I'm like keeping everything so I don't break anything.
No like exuberant hand gestures.
Right.
It's like, whack, $400 right there.
That's exactly right. And, you know, not to get off topic real fast. Well, I'm already doing that. Just like that.
We're already there.
Yeah. Like the governor signed a bill where kids can go into liquor stores starting like November 1st. I'm like, I don't know if that's a good idea. I mean, I understand why, but man, just one little sneeze or one little tyrant or something, it can add up a little bit.
Yeah, my kid was the kid who like knocks over the one shelf and every single shelf just dominoes to the corner, and then I run away.
That's the exact feel I have right now. So I'm look and keep my distance.
Yeah. So if you're just listening to us, we're surrounded by beautiful glass art.
Very
today.
Beautiful. Yeah, it is. Pictures is what you need for this one here.
Yeah.
But
we'll be talking to Glenda here in a little bit, and she'll be telling us all about like the cool stuff that she has here in her studio. Dude, it's been busy.
My goodness, and you said it perfectly, Justin. You know, we're going to come in, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. Then we're going to go home and take a nap.
Yeah, I'm exhausted.
I am too, and it's been nonstop, and that's a good thing though.
Yep,
that means there's a lot of things, a lot of fun things happening, and all the things that I'm going so tired, but they are fun things, and they're things that we like enjoy doing. But it seems like we were promoting May 4th, and maybe that's why we're tired, because there was so much last Saturday.
Yeah, the whole weekend was full of stuff, and then it kind of felt like an extended weekend in Guthrie that culminated in the concert at the Masonic Temple, which was Vince Gill and Turnpike Troubadours and Larry Gatlin and the Byron Berline Band.
That was pretty cool.
It was pretty epic. It felt like one of those, I don't know, like this is probably an exaggeration, but like you feel like every, decade or two has a handful of those kind of iconic moments. Yep. It kind of felt like one of those things. Like this is going to be one of those evenings that people will remember for a long, long time.
I totally agree. I'm a big 90s country guy, so I had the Vince Gill. Byron Berline's a legend no matter what decade. Larry Gatlin, 80s, 70s, 80s, 90s, that type deal. Then you have the Turnpike Troubadours, who are the new hit thing for all the young whippersnappers now. And although the Guthrie football coaches love the Turnpike Troubadours, so I think it was for everybody. You saw different ages there at the temple,
and it was completely sold out. Like every single place that you could put a person on a seat was full. And so I think that was somewhere in like the 1,800 people range. And as long as I've lived here, that's the most people I've seen in that building. The audience was super patient and fantastic about, it was a general admission show. So you walk in, like your ticket got you into like a section. You were like, you bought a certain ticket, you were on the main floor, certain ticket ended up in the one balcony. Another ticket, you were like climbing Mount Everest up into like the stratosphere.
I didn't even know there were seats up there. I thought it was like wall decoration or something, because there's plenty of that in there. But I got a text message and said, "Hey, can we get your seat?" And I looked up again. And, oh wow, there were seats up there.
I was stationed. I was an usher at the balcony entrance, and people would climb the first big flight of steps, and they would walk in there. They would show me their ticket for the top balcony. I was like, oh, just take these steps one more time, turn around, take another set of steps. And at first they were kind of like, oh no. But everybody had a great attitude. They're like, okay, there's a good show at the end of this journey. Yeah. So, everybody was really patient about, because even after they got to their section, with general admission, you've got to it's a little bit of haggling. Like, hey, that seat open. And I don't think there were any fist fights or no one got thrown off of a balcony.
Now it was a little warm. I don't know if it was a little warm for people who were setting up, breaking down, ushering, and all that stuff. I know they were all hot. I don't know if there was a few. I'm sure there was a few fans out there with the fans, but
it was warm.
It was warm,
real warm.
Yeah. Yeah. I told you to turn up the air conditioner in there, and
I passed on that message to like the Masons, and they just laughed at me. Okay. And
by the way, there's no air conditioning in the temple. So
it's super old school. And usually like big events at the temple happen in the winter time.
Yeah.
And this is right around the edge of when like it's like almost no-go time to having an event there.
And I think we got lucky because there were storms coming in, so it could have been a little bit warmer. I mean, it could have been like a lot warmer than for May.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
it's been hot or cold before, but I mean, it wasn't too bad. After I stopped working a whole lot, it wasn't that bad, but felt a little bit of a breeze there.
Yeah, they have like a big window up in one side that they opened up, and so the kind of the cool air came through a little bit. One of the cool things was they had a station set up in the atrium selling water, bottles of water. But once you were up in like the top balcony or the top of the first balcony, it's like, okay, they're trapped at that point. And it was fun to watch. Like a bunch of the volunteers brought their kids, like young teenagers. And so those kids would just like grab like a bucket full of water bottles and just kind of like shimmy their way through the audience, like a baseball game selling peanuts, but little bottles of water, and they were probably the hardest working people there in the room last night.
I bet, because once you get up there, you have a life decision to make. Do I go all the way back down there for that much needed bottle of water? But it sounds like they bailed them out right there. It was people came in, came out. I looked out about 5:50. Doors open at 6 o'clock, but looked at about 5:50. A little bit of line back there, and in fact, I was messaging somebody, and I went in the no section. I went out and looked out the window, and saw the crowd. And I sat back down, and I was finishing my important text message, and I think it was. And I had a guy, a Mason with the hat on. He goes, "Listen, I know who you are. You're in the restricted area. You got to leave." Oh, I'm so sorry. I was trying to find a cool picture of the line outside. I apologize.
It's such an amazing old building with so many
Nooks
cool places that you're probably not supposed to go.
I think he was afraid I was going to find the tunnel.
Right.
I think that's what it was. I was too close to the tunnel.
Well, there was one day last week when a few of the volunteers were kind of going through just to get an idea of where to be and how to organize certain things. And my son was with me, and we were just talking about stuff. And at a wedding a while back, we were there, of Earl Lorraine's wedding, and Eli started talking about how, at that one wedding, I went to try to find the bathroom, and I found like a secret room, and I was like, "Shh, stop it, stop talking, you're gonna get in trouble." But yeah, you can take an official tour.
Yes,
of
you
the
can.
Temple.
Yes, I recommend that too.
Yeah, like Tuesday through Friday. I'm making stuff up now. 2 o'clock. Whatever.
Keep going.
Just Google it.
Google it up.
Yeah.
Well, it was cool. I didn't know any of the format. We were there. Aaron, my son, and my niece we were there helping with the stream. The live stream was in and out, but we produced the stream, and it was. I forgot what I was talking about. This is like a really good story.
Your story reminds me of, we were talking about before we started about weather and David Payne. And it reminded me of when David Payne was on that one storm. Gary England was still working, and David Payne the entire time was like, "Gary, take my stream. Yeah. Gary, take my stream." Okay, back to your story.
But I appreciate that's called stretching, so I could get my memory there. But okay, I didn't know the format, so I was working on everything. But I thought it was cool. Linda Cavanaugh, MC. I mean, that's big league. That's big league.
She's like a news legend in Oklahoma.
She really is, and she's so super nice. I saw her. I won't say it. She presented the OAB award to us, and so I saw her, and I was able to talk to her afterwards. And so, what you see on camera is what she really is afterwards.
Cool.
But anyway, I thought she did great, and then so I didn't know the format, and Byron's crew came out there, did a good job. And I had a feeling what I was going to get from Vince Gill. I had no idea about the Turnpike Tour. Larry Gatlin, that guy is funny. He had a good time. He goes like, "You can clap. I'm doing this for free." He had some good stuff in there, but he was funny, and I forgot all about All the Gold in California. There was moments. It was a cool concert for me.
I think a pretty unique part of that show is that a lot of times when a show is that large, so 1,800 person venue, a lot of times you don't get those kind of cool intimate stories from performers.
Yeah.
And those guys were not only top shelf musicians, but they're all great storytellers.
Yes.
So like Vince Gill, he's the consummate performer, great guitar player, songwriter, singer, but he can also really tell a story.
Yes.
And so can the rest of those guys too. So it was a lot of fun, a really unique experience.
It really was. It was cool. Then they all came out at the end with Tulsa Time, and Larry Gatlin had a few more funny moments there. And
just making up like little jabs at Vince Gill.
Those were good. But you can tell there were so many different emotions. And I talked to Byron before. Of course, this was a big benefit for him and in his music shop. But you can tell it was different emotions when he brought out his masterpiece instrument there, and Vince being there and Larry being there. It was different emotions of appreciation from the fans and from the family members there and from the artists. You can tell happy, sad, joyful. It was there.
I like the story that Byron told at the end with Vince Gill about that mandolin was his prized possession that he rescued from the rubble of the fire. Then he told the story about how around 1980 or something that he and Vince kind of both wanted to buy that mandolin from somebody, and they had a good time telling that story together. And then Byron let Vince play that prized mandolin on a couple of those last songs, and that was really, really cool.
Yeah, Vince just grabbed it I'll play. I'll be like,
right? No,
you know what, you play it.
Yeah, this belongs to you. It costs a lot of money.
Exactly.
And I'll let you play it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was a good time, and able to beat the storms before they came rolling in, so people were able to get home away from that. So man, it was a fun night.
Yeah, and that was the culmination of a whole weekend full of stuff. And we'll talk a little bit with Glenda here in a bit about some of the new things that are going on in Guthrie with like a lot of the shops and studios.
Make Guthrie or great artist great Saturday. What?
There's a name for it. Yeah. We haven't quite figured it out. Guthrie Makers or Artist Makers Artist Saturdays. We'll figure it out. Yeah, but lots of.
I am totally confused. Yeah. I really have no idea what it is.
If you want to learn how to make cool stuff and kind of just discover your artistic passion, there are so many venues to learn things like that in Guthrie, and they're kind of trying to combine those things into a weekend experience once a month. And so we'll talk with Glenda about that a little bit more later. Redbrick Nights was the first one of the year. Was Saturday, and that was a good time. Had a really fantastic crowd.
Yeah.
Usually the first one of the summer, which is in May, is usually the lightest crowd for those five monthly events, but this was definitely the largest crowd they've had for that first May event. So.
Yeah, because sometimes the first one might sneak up on you, then you see everyone putting pictures and posts on social media oh yeah, that was I didn't know they started, or if they live in a cave, because we promote it here on Hit the Bricks, which everyone watches. Including that one in Connecticut. Haven't
heard from a Connecticut person, so if you want a coffee mug, or whatever, coffee mug. Yeah. Contact me. I'll send you a coffee mug because we appreciate Connecticut.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But that was good weather that night too for that.
Oh, it was gorgeous. Yeah, for sure. That entire week rained and was miserable.
Yes.
And then Saturday cleared up. And it actually, by around 9 o'clock or so, it started to get a little bit chilly. People didn't really plan on bringing sweaters with them. So
yeah. By the way, I had my first hamburger at one of the food vendors. I had Buddies.
Yeah.
I had a hamburger and French fry. Awesome. Usually I go for the barbecue and all that good stuff. I mixed it up with the hamburger. Good job, Buddy, at Redbrick Nights.
I rarely am able to find the time to go get in a food truck line, but I need to.
I was starving and I had to eat, and usually, we find the barbecue, but I was I gotta have something. I gotta eat healthy. I gotta eat a hamburger and French fry.
Right. Next time you're in line, send me a text message and say, "Hey, you want anything?"
Oh yeah.
Help each other out.
That'd be good.
Yeah. But if you're not wanting the food truck stuff, there, the new Mexican restaurant is right down there next to the stage. Basically, it's a couple doors down. That place is pretty fantastic. La Potosina.
Yeah, easy for you to say. But yeah, it's the vendors out there, and of course, it's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger as we progress. June, of course, the Big Daddy, July.
Oh yeah, fireworks in conjunction with the July Redbrick Nights.
So who's on the stage next month?
This next month, At 7 o'clock, oh, I just totally went blank. Oh, 7 o'clock is some local folks, Raya DeLee and Evangeline. So they've played in Guthrie tons of times. They live here, they're from here.
Cool.
And then at 8 o'clock, a band called Dawson Hollow. And they've played in Guthrie before a couple of years ago, but they're actually from Missouri. They're passing through, and it kind of just worked out timing-wise to have them. And they're on at 8. And then at 9, there's a band from Oklahoma City called Buddy South. And like the last year or so, they've kind of really started to develop a pretty solid following, and folks are really loving what those guys are doing. They just played a really great set at Norman Music Festival a couple weekends ago, and so those guys are fantastic, and they're also like super nice dudes.
Awesome.
So I'm looking forward to having them here in town.
Before I forget, music-wise, are we going to have some music after our final segment? Was that?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
So this past weekend, one of the artists that played was Madison Keithley Llewellyn, who's also a Guthrie person, graduated from Guthrie High School, and she played this past weekend. And before her set, we were able to catch a little video of her playing a song for us on the sidewalk before the show started. Cool. So at the end of this episode, you'll get to hear a song from, she goes by Keithley on stage. So Keithley has a song for us. And so that will be quite the treat. So
great music. And back up a little bit because I don't want to forget. A big thank you to all the volunteers at the temple last night, because there was volunteers everywhere from different, so many different volunteers.
I think over 70 volunteers.
Crazy.
Making everything run smoothly last night. So
Berla was one of the last ones to leave.
Oh yeah, and Berla recruited and organized all those volunteers. She's quite the volunteer CEO. So
and I had 2 extra tickets that I had to get rid of, and she had them sold I left her office and 3 minutes later, I got them sold. I was like, oh, thank you, Berla.
Yeah, she's like Guthrie's ticket master.
She's good. She is really good.
She doesn't charge any fees for that. She needs to, though.
Yeah. Well, no, not yet.
Not yet.
I want a service fee on my deal. But real quick, I know I'm excited to get to Glenda here real quick, but I want to give a big shout out to some of our high school student athletes.
Oh, yeah.
Congratulations to the Guthrie High School golf team on winning the state championship for the 2nd year in a row, and they won it by 28 shots. That's over.
Total domination.
It really was. They had an 11-shot lead going into the final 18 holes. They played 54 total. They had an 11-shot lead going into the final 18, won by 28 shots over McGinnis, and then 41 shots over Bishop Kelly, who are year in, year out really good programs, and we only graduate 1 senior off the club. So the 4 guys won it last year, won it this year, and they're coming back next year for a 3-peat. So congratulations to Coach Rick Michoud. That's his 4th state championship in golf. Of course, he has 1 in baseball. He has 4 in football, and that's why he's in the Hall of Fame.
Right on.
But congratulations to all of them, and also congratulations to our Lady J soccer team, as they had never won a playoff game before, ended up winning 2 this season, and then made it to the state semifinals. Of course, that's the first time they've ever been to the state semifinals, and got to actually host that game. And Bishop Kelly, who, they're basically a small college up there, they've won 15 state championships in girls soccer since '99, and they shut us out last night 10-0. But that doesn't take away what those girls did for the first time in school history.
Yeah,
I think they started girls soccer in Guthrie, I think 96, maybe 95, but somewhere in that range. Never won a playoff game, never made it to the state semifinals. They did all that in the same season, just ran into a powerhouse.
Yeah, that's like playing the Golden State Warriors. When you have a fantastic team, you're like, oh, we got to play them?
Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So, our track team getting ready to go to the state tournament this week. And I'm hoping I'm not leaving any spring teams out there. Girls golf team did good. They qualified for state tournament for the 3rd year in a row. Drew Dodgen finished 10th. The team finished 10th overall. Golf, soccer.
How do you have all those numbers memorized? And you rattled off all those golf scores and stuff?
Oh,
You're a machine.
Well, I didn't want to go nerdy and tell you. Luke.
You went there. So.
Well, yeah, Luke Morgan. He won the individual state championship. You know, you have the team race and you have the individual. He shot a 2:13, which is a 4-shot victory over his Piedmont counterpart.
There are no cue cards behind me, just so you know. Like Chris is spouting all these numbers off from memory, which is nuts.
Yeah. So congratulations, Luke Morgan. He had the lead last year when they won state. He had the individual lead going to the final day, and it got away from him.
Oh.
And so this year, it was on his mind all year.
Sure.
He had the lead going to the final day again this year, and he was able to cap it off this year and get that individual championship. He was really excited about that. And one more note on it, Guthrie's Bo Robbins on the final day shot a 74, which was the lowest score the entire day of all schools. So great sports season, fall, winter, and spring for Guthrie High School Athletics.
Well done, Blue Jays.
Yep, good job, boys and gals.
Yeah. All right, we'll be back in just a second and talk with Glenda about the glass empire that she's created here.
Don't touch.
Yes, I'm going to limit my hand gestures.
Welcome back. Hit the bricks here in beautiful downtown Guthrie. Got a professional in here finally. Justin Fortney, I'm Chris Evans. Gladly joined here by Miss Glenda.
Hey.
Welcome. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Thanks for letting us hang out in your beautiful shop here.
Cool.
So,
colorful, huh?
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
How long have you been here?
This is my 10th year. I celebrated my 9th anniversary on April 10th. I started with the gallery April 10th, and then my studio, glass blowing studio in the back, opened in September 2010. So 10th year.
So was it your plan from the beginning to have the glass studio in the back? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. The build out took a lot of time. This was actually a real estate office down here for a while. Actually, people would know it way back when as McVickers. This is where the Guthrie students actually came to get, you could probably tell about it, it was before my time, but I'll actually have people come in and I still have the same linoleum that was there, and they'll recognize it. And they'll actually say, oh my gosh, was this? So
I think my school days were toward the end of McVickers, but I remember getting school supplies like in the brown sack and the smell. It was just, I'm having a big flashback here. Of course, we're in the 100 block of East Oklahoma
110?
110 officially here, but I forgot about McVickers. Yeah, absolutely.
It really is fun when someone comes in and remembers things. And before my time, and actually I'm not the first owner, obviously, there have been many, but Charles Scott was the person I bought the building from. And upstairs is actually a 2,000 plus square foot apartment as well. So it's a wonderful building. And down here was not really built out. It was just office and storage back there. So the build out took a while, but I was blessed because I got to really design it after art galleries and studios that I've been at over the years and travel. So it's pretty cool.
Charles Scott, who the previous owner, was one of those kind of like great storyteller kind of folks. When I first moved to Guthrie, I just kind of randomly met him one day, and he asked me where I lived, and he just started telling me stories about like my house, the neighbor's house across the street. Yeah. And he's one of those kind of like encyclopedias of Guthrie knowledge.
He was the ultimate historian for Guthrie. I mean, you could ask him any question and he could tell you inside and out the politics of it, the history of it, where it should be if it wasn't.
Of
so
course.
he was pretty amazing to know. And he lives in Tulsa and a great art community, so he's probably the historian there, would be my guess now. So
a glass studio, like tell us about your background and how you came to know how to do that, first of all, and so the history of that experience with you.
Sure. I'm from California, so my husband took a job here almost 20 years ago now, and when we moved here, I've always loved glass. I have collected glass for years. If I traveled somewhere, I'd always go in and I'd ask where a local glass artist was selling their work, and I'd buy a small piece to take home and remember wherever it was I visited. So glass has always been a love for me. And then when we moved here, and I was always going to open, by the way, a gift shop, art gallery with a lot of glass in it on a beach in California. Something went a little awry there. But
Pretty
that's
close,
okay.
Guthrie. I mean, it's
close.
close.
Yeah, there's sand places here.
We've
Oh,
had
Liberty
like,
Lake, yeah.
Right,
There you
there's,
go. Yeah,
we've used that joke like 4 or 5 times.
It's amazing how it comes up. Liberty Lake makes it up there.
There
I mean,
it is. So when we moved here, I actually joined the Oklahoma City Museum of Art, which has, of course, a huge display of Dale Chihuly's work.
The place is amazing.
It is amazing. And I happened to be thumbing through their classes. Actually, funny enough, I was sort of looking for a photography class, and I came across glass blowing classes in Oklahoma. So that was kind of cool, and I thought, well, heck, I'm doing that. Signed up, loved it from the very minute. So I took classes for 3 years at Blue Sage Studios, which is where they did the classes, the studio through
That
the
was
museum.
in Paseo?
No, it's on Western, downtown.
Okay, cool.
And still there, Andy Boatman. And took classes for 3 years, rented studio time for another 3 years, and then bought this building and created my own studio. And now I've been here teaching for 10 years, my 10th year, producing and teaching. And a really cool circle of events is that for the last 5 years, the Oklahoma City Museum of Art, the museum store, they purchase my art and sell it in the museum store.
Oh,
So that's really cool. Is
I
that
didn't know
cool?
that.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
So I was looking at your fancy equipment. You just can't go to like Walmart and get that. I mean, where do you find equipment like that at?
Yeah, it's not for the
Amazon?
faint of heart or for the light of wallet, because it is. Now, people can do what's called torch work, and you've probably seen it, and it is glass blowing. It's where its torch has the flame, and they use tubes and do all of that. And
Like
they can
in the
make
water?
No, this is actually with the torch and light. Or flame. That's a little more affordable to do. But when you decide to do a hot shop, it's expensive because you have big equipment. You have to be able to melt the glass to about 2,000 plus degrees. So the furnace back there is huge. In fact, when we built the studio, that window, which you can't see from here, but it's a huge window. It was in 2 parts, and they had to take the window out. And when the window, to get the huge tonnage of equipment in, they had to take it out. So when it had to be replaced, because unfortunately the construction people, when they were putting it up, cracked it, they had to pay for a new window. And interestingly enough, Makers Glass here in Oklahoma and Guthrie replaced it. And I asked if he could make one big giant window. And he looked at it and said, I've never done a window that big. But he did, and it's worked out great. This is my 10th year, and it does move a lot when the wind is blowing. It's a little scary looking.
So the
but
window
it's
behind
huge.
the camera that she's referring to, behind Aaron, is what, probably 15?
I was thinking
Yeah,
the free throw
at
line is what I was
least,
thinking.
At least, yeah, exactly. Yeah, so, and it's wonderful for a gallery and a store because now I have all that wonderful, beautiful display signs. So anyway, so to answer your question about setting up a hot shop, no, it's very expensive. And mine is not a huge space, but it works out great for the size that I have. I'll be teaching 3, 4 students in there at a time. There's lots of room production-wise. It's plenty big for me. The really huge pieces I can't make anyway because I'm not huge. So I have other artists that I purchase that do make huge glass pieces. So it works out great.
By the way,
So when can we expect you to have like a piece of Chihuly art in your?
If I hit the lottery.
Okay.
And it's kind of fun. In the museum store, his pieces that are for sale have lots more zeros on
Right.
the end than mine because
there's
his
the-
pieces are very
And
expensive.
there's the one piece there in the lobby that's kind of
it's
like iconic.
amazing.
It's like
Yes,
3
yeah.
stories tall.
Yeah.
And how long did that take him to make?
I
Do you
have
any idea?
no idea.
Let's
but
just say
it's-
years. Let's say years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely years
Yeah.
and lots of people.
Oh,
Although
you're touching things.
his
I am
production-
touching.
you may touch away.
I'm very nervous.
I encourage touching.
So I don't even know where to begin to. I mean, how long does this take? How long
Actually,
would this
it's
take?
really funny that you picked that because that is the thing I can make the fastest. When I'm teaching a student how to make flowers, for instance, I always first apologize and say, I'm going to make this look really easy because I've done thousands of flowers.
If you're just listening, Chris has a piece of glass in his hand. It looks like a flower.
Yes,
So, okay, sorry to interrupt.
No, that's okay. And so
very decorative flower.
when the student's making it, it'll probably take them a half an hour to 40 minutes to make one flower. And I can make a flower in about 5 minutes. But it's because I've made thousands of them. Now,
True.
a bowl or a tall vase or sculpture, can take me an hour to 2 hours. So it depends on what you're making. And just like any other skill, if you do repetitive movements, your wonderful brain has that muscle memory and you can just do something very quickly. However, the glass is challenging. Because sometimes it has a mind of its own, and you might have a day. Everything affects it. The cold in the winter, when it's really cold in there, it's harder on the glass because it cools so quickly. It's easier on the glass blower because we stay a little cooler. In the summer, it's great for working and sculpting because the glass stays warmer longer, but you're dying because it's 105 and it's pretty warm back there.
So how's this glass start off? I mean, does it look like your normal glass window? I mean, is it like thick? I mean,
it starts out, you can either use what's called batch, which is more like bags of sand, it looks like, or cullet. And cullet is these little preformed patties of glass. Clear glass. So clear glass is non-leaded. There's no lead in it. So it goes and it stays all together with just clear glass. And then in my furnace, I heat it up to almost 2100 degrees, and it melts that glass into the consistency of honey.
That's the temperature of the temple last night, by the way.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, exactly. Sounds about right. Yeah, exactly. So then that allows us, once the glass has melted to that honey stage, if you will, we can do what's called a gather. So we use a stainless steel pipe and dip into that glass. Now remember, you're opening the door with 2,000 degrees of heat hitting you, also not for the faint of heart. Stand there, twirl that pipe until the glass gathers around, just like a honey dipper, like you dip honey, and then you're able to come out. And now that's clear glass. Now if we want color, we'll use different glass that's been colored with metals and minerals.
Like this one?
Like that, right,
Yes.
Exactly. So that was frit, that was used with frit. Frit is little tiny pieces of glass, colored glass. You can look behind me, actually, that's a wedding setup, how you pour for a wedding. But that's actually glass crystals or glass frit. And so the glass that's 2,000 degrees, you're able to actually dip that into the colored glass crystals or frit, and then melt it in another piece of equipment called the glory hole, which is 2,300 degrees. So that you have to keep reheating the glass or melting in color, and that's how you get the color in there.
And then on top of that, you do all the art decorative
No,
painting?
that's all glass.
It's all
That's
glass.
all glass. There is no painting whatsoever. That's all glass.
It's amazing. I mean, it looks like it was drawn on there, like art. I mean, well done,
Right.
drawn on, but yeah.
So you just described like a bunch of steps involved in that.
Right.
So I assume that someone who does what you do is familiar with disappointment in terms of getting to a certain level of a lot of work and then something goes wrong. Is that something?
Absolutely, but what's really cool about it, I mean, the challenge for working with glass as opposed to, say, painting. With painting, let's say oils, you can be doing a beautiful seascape and go have lunch and come back and start again. With glass, there's no stopping. You have to continue it because it's a fluid state. So that's sort of the challenge there. And absolutely. So what's fun is I love to do rescues with my students, because every now and then, let's say something actually in trying to transfer it from one pipe to another, it falls on the ground. I hate to lose pieces. I pay for all the glass, right? So I will grab a pipe, go into the furnace, get a little tiny bit of glass on it, and pick that baby up and get it in the glory hole, while my students are standing there with their mouths wide open. It's like, oh my gosh, you saved it. So that's really fun. So usually most things can be saved. Now, if something falls and goes in a million pieces, you can't save it. The other thing that often can happen is, let's say you plan to make a small vase, and along the way, something goes terribly awry. Guess what? Turn it all around, heat it, make a paperweight. So you can, there's some saves that can happen.
Oh, right on.
And yeah, and it's like any other art form. Some days everything goes perfectly and it's amazing and you can just work like crazy. And other days it's just not happening. It's just for whatever reason. It's just, and we're all like that as artists or as people. Some days things are easy and so I've learned the perfect thing about having a studio is I'll be here tomorrow.
And that's
No,
cool
I'm not paying rent.
Yeah.
I'm paying for the building and the
Sure.
$1 billion in gas and electric, but
The most
you know
expensive
what I mean?
air conditioning bill ever, I would think.
Yes, yeah, and that's in all of our daily lives. You learn when you make those mistakes how sometimes it's really good and you can like have this cool paperweight, but then you learn from it and just like
Right.
everything else. So
Yeah.
This is an inspirational show.
yeah,
today.
I know.
Okay, I didn't know where to go with that, but it was very inspirational. Thank you.
Yes, exactly. You mentioned your students a couple of times. So
Right.
if someone wants to take a class here, how do they find out more about your classes?
My website is the best place. It's ggalleryandglass.com. Tells you what it costs for classes, what you make, how that goes. It tells you about blow your own ornament, which is another quick way to kind of get a feel for it. And I'll talk about in a second that we did for the Guthrie Makers Day. And they can pop in, can call me. So there's lots of ways. And the other thing is, almost every Saturday I'm teaching my advanced students, and they can come and watch. It's free. So you just come and watch the advanced students. I can leave them alone. That's why it's only my advanced students when I'm open. If I need to make a sale in the store, the gallery, I can leave them alone, and they're not going to hurt themselves or anyone else.
And just watching is just super mesmerizing. Cause a couple times that I've been to the Festival of the Arts in Oklahoma City,
yes.
and they'll have demonstrations down there,
Right.
and just like standing there watching that, like it really is the most incredible thing just to
Right.
watch happen.
Which, by the way, that's Andy.
Oh,
Andy
cool.
Beltman from Blue Sage
Yeah.
Studios, where I learned some 16 years ago.
I'm amazed how they make cinnamon rolls, so I would just be memorized. I just sit there and watch, oh, butter,
cinnamon
sugar,
rolls.
oh, butter. I can do that all day. I can imagine,
It
watching
really
that.
is fun. I think people get such a better look at how hard it is to do it.
Yeah.
You know how it is. You see something, you think, oh, that's cool. And often, like the cinnamon rolls, you'll say, oh, I could make that. I don't think people do that as much with glass, but it is really fun when they see the whole,
Yeah.
all of the technique and what really does go into it. Especially if, let's say, I'm making a bigger piece and two of my students are assisting. There's a lot. It's like a lovely dance in a way, the choreography, because you all have to know where the other person is, what the next steps are, and all of that when you get into more advanced and complicated things. So.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Guthrie Makers Day, because she does some other cool stuff that I want to talk about. So I'm going to kind of keep it
Sure.
in a flow, just like your show note says.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So that's pretty exciting that this is.
I thought he was going to talk.
Oh, I was just going to say.
I was going to have him build it up to you about
Okay,
Guthrie Makers Day.
that worked. Go ahead.
Okay.
You go.
So you mentioned Guthrie Makers Day. There are a number of studios and galleries in different places here in Guthrie that have gotten together and have tried to plan a number of classes and demonstrations on the same day. And so the first one of those was this past Saturday. So Guthrie Makers Day was the same day as Redbrick Nights. So you could come for the entire day in Guthrie on one of these Guthrie Makers Days and learn how to do all kinds of different art forms. Mm-hmm. You could folks came here to learn how to make glass ornaments, and so you had a packed house full of people who were were they folks who were just learning from the beginning level?
Right.
How'd that work?
Well, it's a little tricky for me to have something that's drop-in because the equipment has to be on. I often have to have someone help, but this is something I've been doing all along since the day after Thanksgiving. It's called Blow Your Own Ornament. So it takes no experience. It's the only time I actually do kids 12 and older, because they'll get an opportunity to do parts of making it. They'll actually blow the whole ornament. They'll get to hold the pipe in the glory hole. That's why the 12 years old, you have to be tall enough to maybe do that. And they'll actually make an ornament, an actually blown glass ball ornament. So they had to sign up, but all they had to do was go on my website and sign up to do that, and then fill all the slots. I did it from 12 to 5, and then once all of those slots were filled up, then I had to say I actually had somebody that rolled over into Sunday, which was fine.
Oh,
because we
cool.
could do it. As long as I know in advance, I can't. It's just a little bit trickier for drop-in. Some of the things that were on Maker's Day, people could really just didn't have to sign up and just show up, which is okay. But it's often I'm really excited about Guthrie Makers Day. We've all been talking about different names and things, but really when you look at all of the different places now in Guthrie that provide makers, everything from fabric. I mean, we've had Tipsy Art with painting, but up above next door to me, the Art Loft is doing all kinds of things also with felt and fabrics. Right next door, the Art Center. I mean, they did painted mugs. There's so many things in our town that are creative, and an experience. Watching is fabulous, but getting to actually experience it, and it's difficult. There's not that many places that can come in and do glass.
The Guthrie Arts Center next door is a mind-blowing place. If you don't know about it,
Right.
it's hard to even describe. Like you walk in and they're like all like looms
Yeah,
and things
yeah.
everywhere. Like, people like
Potters.
yeah.
They do potter- Yeah.
This is where I lose track of all the applicable words. I'm like, I don't know how any of this stuff works. But like looms and pottery wheels,
Right,
and
right.
and then upstairs is where the art loft had
Yes.
the classes for like felting. I think
They were felting flowers.
yes, flowers.
Mm-hmm.
And then someone else was doing like ceramic mugs, and
Yeah.
they were. You could stay busy the entire day
Right.
just learning these different things. And so. I'll try to keep up with like the activities for the next one, which will be June 1st,
Right.
Saturday. And so on GuthrieOK.com, I'll have a blog post between now and then that kind of gives a summary of all the different stuff people can participate in. But it really is, when I saw the list of different activities that were available last Saturday, it was kind of like, whoa, there's so much going on all the
Right.
time with these shops and businesses. But having it all on one day to kind of focus it was really pretty cool. And the Oklahoma Mini Mill out over on Wentz,
Right.
where Van and Sherry have this like unique business to the entire region, not
Right.
just to
The fabric,
Guthrie.
right.
Like there's
They create-
not another one of these within like a really like pretty long distance where you can take. Chris, if you have like your llama,
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
yeah.
And you sheared your llama.
if you've sheared your
Yeah.
llama,
Sure, yeah.
and you're like, what do I do with this llama
Dexter.
fur now? You take it to them, and they do fancy stuff to it. To where
you
then-
turn it into yarn.
Yes, and so you can make your sweater and out of your llama hair, whatever.
See, I was about to brag at how much our knowledge of the Yama, because we didn't know what the heck we were doing 2-3 weeks ago. Like, do you take the llama there? Do you
Right.
shave it before?
We still haven't figured that out.
Yeah.
No.
I
You
don't
were
think I
going
know
really
that
good
either.
till the end
Yeah.
on that one.
We'll have to have an episode out there so
Right.
they can really let us know how this stuff
Yeah.
works. These incredible machines that they use
Yeah.
to
Right.
process, all kinds of animal fibers.
This is a great state, man.
It really is.
Right.
Great
One of the
state.
things also that's great for me as a business owner here is not only does something like the Guthrie Makers Day bring people in. I mean, most people don't even realize I actually have an American craft gallery. So in my gallery in front of the studio, I actually have handmade, American-made gifts and art. And there's everything here it starts at $7.50, I think is my least expensive thing, all the way up to fine art. And I've got watches and jewelry. And one of the fun things, I just sold the last one, this is kind of funny, but I have a wood carver that I added this year when I went to a market in Philadelphia, and I asked him to make scissor tails. And I literally just so I can't even show it to you if you could hear it. Anyway, but there's things that people don't even know are here. I have people that come in and say, "Oh, are you a new place in Guthrie?" I go, "My 10th year." And well, I live in Guthrie. How did I never know this was here? So that's really a big plus too. Anything we do to bring people either that live in Guthrie, but bring them downtown and into all these great places, or from outside of Guthrie is awesome. So I'm excited about it.
For sure.
As you were talking about, I was looking at different stuff, and I didn't want to touch, but maybe like this right here. Like, I wouldn't know if this was $2, $30, $5,000, $80,000, $100,000. What?
Chris
makes-
has a print of a painting in his hands.
Thank you, audio guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what makes it like? I hope he
It's
didn't.
a great-
I hope he didn't make
No,
this
it-
because it looks like something that I would do, and no one would ever buy it. But if someone like you made it, they're like, "Oh, I got to have that." And it's like, what's separate? I mean, what's
That's a great question because a lot of it has to do, art is certainly in some ways it's subjective, what speak to you,
Right.
but it also has to do with the artist. So we'll use glass since that's my media. My pieces, I mentioned earlier that I'm in the museum store, has a lot less zeros than Dale Chihuly. So he has a name that is recognizable and has done art that's amazing for decades. And so often it has to do with the artist. Sometimes it depends what you're using. So if you're using jewelry and you're making jewelry out of gold, that's going to cost a lot more than the person who's making jewelry out of copper or even silver. So it has to do with the piece itself, it has to do with the artist, and it has to do with what the piece is made from or the art's made from.
sometimes I drive, and this is not just Edmond. This is every time I'm like driving through a town, and there's like this art thing in the middle of the media. I'm like, what in the world is that? Why would it? How did you even come up with that idea to even? And then it's supposed to be important or something, but that probably
Right.
maybe it
Sure.
was
Sure.
heritage or something. So.
Yeah.
I saw a great poster the other day. It was about modern art. And it was kind of like a conversation between like the artist and someone, and the person is looking at modern art and they're like, "Oh, I could do that," and then modern artist is like, "Well, maybe, but you didn't."
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. That's it. Well, that's why I do have a lot of, I'm very contemporary, so I have a lot of abstract art in here. But I learned years ago not to say, so that's a such and such, because that's the one wonderful thing about abstract. What does it say to you? And what I might not even see in there, someone sees that, and I'm not about to spoil that for them.
Oh,
because
sure.
it doesn't matter. It's really what again speaks to you and what gives you joy, and that's why I've got so much color in here, and because I want to work in a beautiful, colorful place.
That's exactly.
So-
I was thinking very colorful. I think Justin might have said that at the beginning of the show, how colorful it is in here. And we can talk hours upon hours about all this cool stuff.
Nah, I just wanted to mention it.
But also, you do other fun stuff like acting and all that good stuff.
I do. Actually, my first love is acting.
Yeah.
So I've been
California,
blessed enough.
you know,
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
okay.
I took a long break though because I was just 12 years here before I started back into acting from California because it was Oklahoma, and then I got back into it, and it's been awesome. And a really cool thing has just happened. The cap for rebates on producing here has gone from 4,000 to 8,000. So a lot of really hardworking people
Yeah.
have worked on that, and
The governor
I'm
just signed
excited.
that yesterday, I think.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I went to a big Tower Theater event about it, and a lot of us actors were there just to say, hey, we all want it. It's bringing a lot. So that's really exciting for Oklahoma and Guthrie,
Yep.
because
Oh, yeah.
Guthrie is becoming a great mecca for filmmakers.
People know that it's a film-friendly town.
Absolutely.
Um,
Yeah.
I saw a really cool graph at the Tower Theater where it showed at some point, I think maybe 2000, I'm just gonna make it up, 2003, the number of films was 2 filmed that
right.
year. And then it just showed this chart of up to this past year, it just grown and grown and grown. And that was at that $4 million
Right.
rebate level.
Right.
And now it's doubled.
Right.
And so I think that the film industry in Oklahoma is going to explode at this
Oh,
point.
I think it is too. And I know there are talks of different kinds of studio production things being done in terms of facilities as well. So it's an exciting time to be an actor or to be involved in any way. And I love that Guthrie is a real hub for it. So
Yeah.
that's exciting.
Our,
And
our lieutenant governor is the biggest proponent right now of the
yes,
film
my
industry.
Gosh, was
And,
wonderful. He spoke at again at that event, and he's exciting and on board, and that's what we've needed. So it's an exciting time.
And the cool thing about all the movies and all that stuff here in Guthrie is people just take it all in. Sometimes there's road closing, sometimes there's building closing. People just kind of shrug it off, and it's another
Right.
movie. All the roads closed. Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
so
And that reputation is great, and it goes all the way to Atlanta and Los Angeles and all of that, because not only the citizens in Guthrie, but also all of the crew that we provide. And there are talented people, and they don't expect it when they come from big towns
Yeah.
like LA and Atlanta. They expect it to be, oh, that's going to be a problem. And it's been proven time after time after time. And so Guthrie has this great reputation now for, hey, there's local actors that are good. There's local crew people. We can work with the chambers and the people in charge of everything else and make things happen. So
And that
it's really
rebate
good.
program through the state, part of that is that production
Right.
has to utilize Oklahoma-based crew. They get an extra a little bit of rebate if they use Oklahoma musicians, their music in the
Oh,
in the
cool.
movies, that
Yeah,
kind of
because
stuff.
it's SAG-AFTRA now, since they're combined, that happened too. So the music is all part of it, yeah. And then I don't know if that next part of it went through also, but if it did, it's awesome, which is a part where it can go beyond that. There's certain stipulations for it to happen, but if someone came in with a bigger project, that there's some kind
I
of
think it's
matching.
50 million or more
Right.
budget. The
Right.
governor kind of has some leeway, I
Some
think.
ability
Yeah.
to say, yeah, that's what they were talking about, and I hope that went through, because that's like a television series, for instance, the 8 million is not a big enough cap for a TV series to come in. So, but that would be amazing if something like that happened. It's what Texas has done, and Then you've got an ongoing production that's going to do, say, a weekly or whatever it's going to be, and that employs so many people and puts so many people in hotels and restaurants and all of that. So
and those productions spend money locally on like,
Oh,
hotels.
absolutely.
When a show or a movie is being shot in Guthrie, you can go to the restaurants at night and you'll see cast and crew there at the
absolutely.
restaurant or in the bar.
Right.
They spend money here.
Yeah, I have an apartment upstairs that I leased out to one of the two directors and a producer of one of the movies here, and they were there for 3 months. So it really does. It pays back, and luckily our politicians have listened to that. And
There's a
things are
movie being
happening.
shot this week in Guthrie in the evening
Right.
about zombies.
Yes. There
Oh
is.
yeah, over kind of by the courthourse.
Yep, they're shooting over there. I think they're over on the 5th Street Bridge this weekend.
Yeah.
What's really cool is that when the director first talked to me about like the permitting process for that one, he was looking for a bridge to use that was close to downtown.
Right.
Like so, they're not many of them.
Yeah.
But, I was just sending him a picture of the 5th Street Bridge, and then he was like, "Yeah, I need to use this bridge because like the setting is like downtown Philadelphia or something."
Oh, okay.
And I'm like, this bridge isn't necessarily like this isn't Philadelphia, so I don't know if this is going to work for you. And he immediately sent me back a photoshopped version of that bridge
Yeah, isn't that
with
crazy?
like the Philadelphia skyline behind it. I'm
Right.
like, oh, that's cool.
Well,
Yeah.
that's like I forgot what movie it was, but they had City Hall and they put mountains behind City
Oh,
Hall,
yeah.
and it was
Yeah.
like, oh wow, that was like it looked real.
It is amazing.
I think it was real.
What they
No,
do
it
with
wasn't.
that.
It looked real.
Was on set not too long ago, and I was waiting for my lines to come in and do, and I was watching one of the editors just work with the photography and what was happening, and it's just, that's a whole nother skill level. It's like, wow, that is amazing. He just took that and made it look stronger just by how he put the color tones in, and that. It's pretty cool.
That's exactly the color tones, because we were at the temple. It was like 9-10 o'clock at night, and they had this big spotlight, the orange, and it was going through the trees. It looked like a sunset, but it was in the middle of middle of the night. I was like, man, this
Yeah.
Hollywood,
Those
Guthrie magic.
Those
Professionals and their skills.
Okay, do you have a cool Olympic story?
I don't, but I heard that someone else.
You don't. Oh, okay,
You did not you?
All right,
no,
all
that was-
right, all right.
It must be her.
All right.
So this goes back to 2000, and my husband, the reason I'm in Oklahoma is my husband was the executive director of USA ASA softball. National headquarters are here, so we were able to go to several Olympics. So the first one that I went to was in Sydney, and I was working at the time at a television station, and not reporting. I was a sales manager, but I was an actor. So the news director came in and said, "Hey, how about doing some live reports for us from Sydney?" I was like, I check with my husband, but sure, I'm
Heck
comfortable with
yeah.
that. Yeah. So they did the whole setup and all of that, and then got there, and my news director said, "Okay, so it's going to be like 4 in the afternoon, when you're there." And so, I said, "Look, okay, I'll have a press pass, but I'm not going to be at the upper tier of all of that, but I'll do what I can do." And softball is obviously what I'm reporting on. That's what we're there for. So very first one. First of all, when we get there, it's 4 o'clock in the morning, not 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So
Switching back.
he said, I said, there's nothing happening at 4 a.m. You're going to have to do. So we did a phone in with my picture, right, instead of what they were planning on doing. So I tell my husband, so plan on being awakened at 3:45 because that's when they're going to do the live stuff, right? So the very first one, I'm all ready to talk about softball. And luckily I have a book in front of me, and I could at least look. They're not video. So, and I'm talking about, because they're asking about Sydney, and so I'm looking at the book and I'm telling them all these things. That was the first day. So halfway into doing this, they had a big issue with gymnastics, where the vaulting had happened. It was a big deal
Russian
that
judges?
happened. Yeah, something like that. There was a whole problem with the size of the vault and all that. I don't know. I'm at softball.
Controversy.
Right, exactly.
At the Olympics? No way.
So they get me back on air that morning and said, "So tell us about what's going on with the gymnastics and the vault." How the hell do I know? Excuse my language. It's like, well, it was very unfortunate. They're working on it. They really don't know exactly what happened. So I go on, and then they move on to other questions. And I immediately call the news director and go, "Don't do that to me. I'm not even where that is." My husband pops up and he goes, "That was the biggest bunch of BS I have ever heard, and it somehow sounded like you knew what you were talking about. Had no idea. So that's my Olympic story.
Like transition to softball now. Let's talk about softball. That's awesome.
Softball.
Yep. Said I'm not even anywhere near gymnastics. It's pretty crazy. Great experience.
Feels like this
though.
show sometimes.
Right.
Oh, we didn't talk about that.
Exactly. Yeah. Llama fur.
Exactly.
Yeah, llama fur.
Yeah, I can't.
I have no idea. Hey, and thanks again for letting us hang out here today.
You're welcome.
This place is
Anytime.
fantastic.
I enjoyed it. Thank you for the opportunity.
Once again, if you want to take a class here at G Gallery, go to your website.
ggalleryandglass.com.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Welcome.
All right, we're going to let Keithley play us out today with her song that she recorded over on the sidewalk behind the stage this past Saturday at Redbrick Nights. So here's a song by Keithley.
I met a girl named Lucy. She has pretty hair and green eyes. She loved me from the first time I met her. I'd be lying if I said it didn't feel nice. But Lucy doesn't like the bands I like, and she's a couple sizes too big. She makes too many jokes and she never wants to smoke. Oh, Lucy, I cannot be your man. Well, I still like to drive with Lucy. Yes, it's nice to have a body by my side. And when I feel her slip from my fingers, I'll say the words I know she likes. But Lucy doesn't like the bands I like, and she's a couple sizes too big. She makes too many jokes and she never wants to smoke. Oh, Lucy, I cannot be your man. Oh, no, no. Oh, no, no. No, no, no. No, no, no. Well, sometimes I think about Lucy. Well, I wonder what her sheets feel like. And I get kinda mad when I see her talking to that one guy named Mike. But Lucy doesn't like the bands I like, and she's a couple sizes